Mark, I can't take it anymore. I see Mick Foley in the crowd. This atmosphere is incredible. I say let's go to the crowd. You gotta be a fan for something like this.
You know what, Jimmy, you're right. I think this match speaks for itself.
For Mark Nolte, I'm Jimmy Power. Enjoy the rest of this match and thank you for purchasing this home release. This is incredible!
Welcome to Last Match Standing, the podcast where we review, relive, and rank the 100 greatest wrestling matches of all time. As always, I'm Spencer.
I'm Cookie Monster.
And I'm Chicago Made.
And today we are in episode 39, and it's very appropriate, Landon, that you are Chicago Made, because we are coming from the Frontier Fieldhouse from Chicago Ridge, Illinois, October 16th, 2004, from Ring of Honor, Joe versus Punk 2. Of course, Samoa Joe versus CM Punk for the Ring of Honor World Championship.
I just want to take a moment right here to say, you know what? This match is good, and it speaks for itself. So I'm just going to turn everybody off, and, you just go watch it.
Oh, my God. Hold on.
Landon, you heard it. Episode 39, the bag. You heard it here, folks. We'll see you next week.
That's right. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Thanks for ordering the pay-per-view. We'll catch you later.
Shortest episode in history.
I have to tell you, this moment in this match, it's about, we'll get into the length and when it happens or whatever, but it might be my favorite moment in 39 matches so far that we've done.
There's a couple of moments in this one that I'm like, all right, this match is fucking awesome.
It makes me laugh so hard. We'll explain it in a little bit down the way. But for the first time, and it might have taken us too long to get here, but boy, are we glad that we did. We have a Ring of Honor match making our list.
ROH, baby.
Ring of Honor, which is kind of it's the top of the indies, right? It's like if you're going to say that you're an independent wrestler, but then you say you wrestle for Ring of Honor, it's like, are you even independent anymore? Because that is the cream of the crop of the indies.
I mean, only in a technicality. But I mean, at this point, Ring of Honor is like they're not. I don't consider them independent anymore.
No, if you've made it to Ring of Honor, you've made it. And if you just look at the list of names, and we'll go through some of them here while we're talking about the build to this match. The list of names that have come out of Ring of Honor.
Just look at the NXT roster, and you pretty much.
There you go.
There you go. Hey guys, before we really get going on Ring of Honor, I just want to bring back up. It's super important that we mention that we have 3 new Slammy Award winners.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. And we're super, super excited that they've won Slammys. And that is, of course, our highest tier on Patreon. So a huge shout out and thanks to Ben, to Miss K, and, of course, to Swift Nipples.
Appreciate it, Swift Nipples. You're the best.
Well, if we didn't have the expletive next to our name, we're going to get it now.
There's about 100 jokes I wrote for that name. I will say none of them, and we'll just move right along.
Children listen to this show.
But in all seriousness, thank you all so much for being a part of our Patreon family. We have some really, really fun stuff going on. We're actually about to record WrestleMania 9 right after we end this recording per episode. And guys, WrestleMania 9 is going to be a fun conversation.
Oh, yes. Yes, it will. It really, really will.
You mean the greatest WrestleMania of all time?
No doubt.
WrestleMania 9?
I mean, the greatest WrestleMania match happens, but we'll talk about that on the show.
Ooh.
Uh-oh. Do I sense some Luger file?
Perhaps.
Oh, man. Okay, so yeah, back to Ring of Honor. Landon, you're absolutely right. Paul, you're both absolutely right. The names that have come out of Ring of Honor, I mean, it's a who's who, right?
It's
Well,
incredible.
I mean,
It's incredible.
we got-
I mean, Joe was going into this match as the reigning ROH champion for 21 months or something ridiculous.
it's a long time.
This was day 573 of
Oh
his
my
man.
Ring of
God.
Honor World Championship reign. He is the third Ring of Honor World Champion ever up to this point. And so he's had it for about 19 months.
And to do that, he had to go through guys like AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Homicide, the Briscoes, Doug Williams, Colt Cabana, Bryan Danielson. These are names
Bunch of
that
jobbers.
Right? these are
All
names
of
that are these are people who have reached the peak of this industry and understand what it takes to be a champion. And Joe bulldozes through these guys.
Well, I was going to say, everybody you mentioned, with the exception of the Briscoes, at one point in time were like the heavyweight champion of their respective promotions. So to say these guys made it is an understatement.
But, I have to say, before we get too far into it, the heart of this match is at the root of every great wrestling rivalry. Two athletes at the top of their game who respect each other and respect the sport of pro wrestling. Each man is out to prove that he is the greatest wrestler alive and worthy of the top prize. And that is not just what this match is about. That's what Ring of Honor is about. And so, yeah, it's been a long time coming getting a Ring of Honor match on this list.
Oh, yeah. And I think my favorite thing about this match is the fact that the crowd is constantly doing the Terminator 2 main theme on the barricades, the dun 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 dun, the entire match, the whole time. I'm like, yes.
Well, that's what CM Punk comes out to.
I know. It's so fucking awesome.
I mean, this match and everything that this match stands for is why professional wrestling exists. It's why fans love the sport. It's why every wrestler we love to watch laces up a pair of boots, wraps that tape around their hands, and gets in the ring.
When you look at our list so far, right, you've got matches like Triple H, Shawn Michaels, where it's this, big, we were brothers and now we're not. And then you've got, Brett and Owen, they were actually brothers. You've got, Bailey, Sasha Banks, turning on each other. You've got Kofi Kingston, Daniel Bryan, the Rise to the Mountain. You've got all these storylines, right? These massive storylines, but none of them get as basic and as real as this right here, where it's just who is the better man.
Yeah, that's really what it is. So I'll just say I've followed Samoa Joe's career from his debut into TNA into now, and I have never respected his ability, really. I mean, I could recognize that he's important and he has a role to play and he moves around good for a bigger guy, but particularly,
I can't hear you over the booze. I'm so sorry.
Well, okay, so let me back up a little bit. I really want to speak to particularly after the jump to the main roster in WWE. There seemed like there was a switch for Joe, and I haven't really respected him in a while. After watching this match, I will never look at Samoa Joe the same way again.
I've been on Team Joe since day one. The minute he popped up in TNA, I was like, all right, this is one of my top fives right here. I love this guy. He's amazing. When he popped up in NXT, I was like, all right, here we go. He's going to become the champion. And like the second match, he fucking kills. He fucking killed Kevin Owens and took his title. And I'm like, all right, no one's taking that belt away from him anytime soon. And it was he had that belt for a hot minute. But yeah, once he came to the main roster, I'm like, oh yeah, he's just gonna put people in a sleeper hold and win. Yay, he's actually capable. Why is he just gonna do the one move? I think it wasn't until like he had the Great Balls of Fire main event where I'm like, yeah, I know he can wrestle, right? He can do more than just lock on the sleeper hold.
Oh yeah, when they let him go, he'll go. Give him an hour. Give him an hour. He'll show you what he can do.
Yeah, I think that stands by. That's Vince not going like, well, I don't like him. He's fat. So like, have him be slow and do one move. God damn it.
But in Ring of Honor, in his early 20s, he was able to make it to the top of the promotion, and this was at the start of Ring of Honor's history. He was kind of the guy who was building the brand for them. And so when it came time to defend the ROH championship against CM Punk, some people pretty much figured that he had it in the bag. But not to sell CM Punk short, he had been having an incredible climb to the top of ROH after his wars with Colt Cabana got him a spot in Ring of Honor 3 years into his pro wrestling career, mind you. It was clear that Punk was destined for greatness, right? He had a great feud in 2003 against Raven. He made it to the finals of the inaugural ROH Pure Championship tournament, losing to AJ Styles. And he had 2 ROH Tag Team Championship victories alongside Colt Cabana. Anyone going into their first match who doubted Punk's ability to hang with Joe was in for a rude awakening.
I feel like maybe not. You don't hear much about it now, but I feel like, especially when he just kind of popped up in the WWE when he was in ECW and became the main roster, people did not understand what this man could do. They just looked at a skinny guy with a lot of tattoos and were like, what's the big deal with this guy? And I kind of say, go back and watch matches when he was skinnier and like just had his weird long hair thing going on, like the blonde streaks with the red and purple. Go watch that guy wrestle and then get back to me, and then you'll understand. I felt like when he popped up, the hardcore wrestling fans like, oh my God, he's here. It's going to happen. And then it kind of did happen for like a month, and then they cut his balls off and then gave him the belt for a year and change just to kind of make him feel better, make us feel better about him not being the main guy. But like, this is a guy that I will forever say is one of the greatest of all time. You can say whatever you want to me about Punk, but Punk's fucking amazing. If you don't like Punk, then I don't care. Don't fucking come at me. I know I said some shit about the New Day last week, but
Uh-oh.
no, I stand by what I said about the New Day. But when it comes to Punk, like, don't fucking tweet me, oh, he quit. I'm like, okay, so I don't care. You can come up with whatever you want. Like, no, I'm not changing my mind on Punk. Unless Punk comes and stabs me, I'm not changing my mind on him. So
So that is the one thing that will change Paul's mind.
If Punk walks up to my house and stabs me, then I'll say, oh, fuck him, he's a scumbag. But until then, I'm like, no, I stand by this guy. I met him before all the unpleasantries with the company happened, and looking back on it, you could just tell that he was going through some really bad shit. He was still really nice to me. I wore a John Cena shirt and I tore it apart in front of him, and he like completely corpse started laughing his ass off. It was amazing. Because he was not expecting that. And then he's like, oh man, you should have touted that. Because this is back when
so funny.
This is back when tout was a thing.
Tout it out, man.
Oh no, there was so much sarcasm in his voice when he said that.
I know it.
Oh God. But I digress. Punk's amazing. Punk will always be one of my favorites.
No, I mean you're exactly right. I mean his wrestling ability is on full display in this series of 3 with Samoa Joe in ROH, and their first match, literally labeled a wrestling classic in its own right, saw CM Punk try and wear down Joe. Right, he was trying to show off that technical wrestling skill, and just as it seemed like he had Joe beat, the 60-minute time limit expired. And gentlemen, that leads us to Punk versus Joe 2, which is widely considered one of the greatest wrestling matches of all time.
And that's why we're here.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You look at people's, there's 1,000,001 lists around, and if you look at people's lists of the greatest Ring of Honor matches of all time, if Joe Punk 2 isn't number 1, it's probably 2 or 3, right? Like,
oh yeah,
this is peak pinnacle Ring of Honor. This is one of the best matches they've ever put on. And as we focus in on October the 16th, 2004, I would like to also mention that the referee is Todd Sinclair.
Thank you, because I couldn't find that information.
He is still the senior official for Ring of Honor right now.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, how about that? And the commentary team for most of the match is Jimmy Bauer and Mark Nolte.
Slackers.
As a matter of fact. Yeah, we'll get to them in a little while. But, you're right, Landon. Coming off of World Title Classic just 4 months prior to this, CM Punk had proven that he could go the distance with Samoa Joe, and Samoa Joe had proven that he's got the endurance to last. And that was a big deal. Because like you guys both mentioned earlier in his title reign, it was a lot of like he's beating guys and he's beating them badly. So for Joe
brutalizing them.
Exactly. So for Joe to prove that he can go 60 minutes, what meant a lot to his title reign. So we focus in on the Frontier Fieldhouse, and of course, one of the first things that comes to mind with CM Punk is Chicago, Illinois.
Oh,
so when he steps out behind the curtain, he shows his wrist tape, and it just says one word: home.
Oh my! It's bone chilling. This entrance from CM Punk is just beautiful. It's everything that you want as a wrestling fan.
Oh yeah, he's got the Terminator music. The fans are doing the dun 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 on the barricades, like I mentioned earlier, which they do the entire match.
Well, you can feel the passion, the desire, and the confidence from being hometown Chicago. It's such a special moment, and the match hasn't even started yet.
I will say, I feel like a lot of people talk shit about Ring of Honor, but like, if you can get that crowd, like the Ring of Honor crowd, oh man, let me tell you something. Those are some fucking passionate fans of this business.
Until Ring of Honor comes and stabs me, I'm going to say it's the best indie promotion out
there. Well, like, they have the most passionate fan base among of wrestling fans. So people who go to Ring of Honor shows, these are people that fucking love wrestling. So when you go out there and you have a wrestling classic, you're not going to get, this is long. This match is an hour long. It's boring. People are like, no, they're going to fucking pay attention. They're not going to pull out their phones. They're not going to go on Twitter and tweet, oh, this match won't end. They're not going to start going and chanting, we want this or we want that. They're going to fucking watch the goddamn match.
Well, and they're intelligent, right? So they cheer the heels because they respect the wrestling ability.
Right, and you can tell in this match because CM Punk, I mean, it's very clearly his hometown, but you'll get some Joe chants throughout the match because
there's a lot of Joe chants.
He is. Yeah, I would like to say, I know we talked about CM Punk's theme, like his entrance music. I really liked Joe's entrance theme.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what it was. I have no idea, but I liked it a whole lot.
It wasn't
that different than what he has now.
Well, it was somewhat reminiscent, I believe, to his TNA theme. I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily copy paste the same, but it was very, very sort of similar, and he has kept that sort of flavor throughout his career, which I really love.
Yeah, even his Fed song sounds similar to that. Same entrance anyway, same beginning.
And I do love that a young Joe, looks just like Elvis Presley. Like, I don't know
my gosh. Man, I was trying to figure out what he looked like to me, and you just nailed it.
He looks like Elvis.
The hair. Yeah. Both of these guys are 25 years old at this point in 2004 in this match. So, seeing Joe so young is really entertaining, and obviously Punk is really young with the blonde hair and all that stuff. But just so fascinating that these two 25-year-olds are going to go out, and the pay-per-view is named after them.
Yeah, Punk versus Joe too.
Right. And it's big fight feel. I mean, from beginning to end, and it's really, really cool for that reason.
An interesting thing to note before the bell rings is you can notice CM Punk enters the match with a taped back.
Yes, he does. I got huge Rocky 2 vibes from this match.
Yeah, I could see it. I could totally see it.
Well, let's go down that rabbit hole. Let's go down that rabbit hole. What's screaming Rocky 2 to you?
Well, Rocky 1 famously ends with a 15-round draw.
Right.
I mean, there is a winner, but this kid that nobody thought could stand up to the champ went the distance with him and lost by 1 point. So now here we are A year later, boom, here we go again. This time we're in the home turf. We're in and Rocky 2 we're in Philly, but now we're in Chicago. Punk is now the hometown hero, and everybody thinks he can do it. So he's going to get another shot against the undefeated champion.
I love it. And it's like we talked about. The story is so simplistic, but it's because it's about the wrestling. It's about their heart and their desire to be the champion in the sport that they love. And that's what Rocky 2 is about, and that's what this match is about.
It's funny how effective that kind of storytelling is.
It is.
It's also funny how nobody fucking uses it anymore.
Right? Come on, guys. This is what people want to see.
You know, wrestling can just be about wrestling.
And at its best, it is, in my opinion. But so here's a really interesting point to take away. Did you guys notice the guy in the crowd screaming to Joe, go and take some Vicodin?
Yeah, I did notice that.
What the hell was
I
that?
did not notice that, actually.
Well, it's wrestling fans.
But yeah, we get the classic handshake, ROH style, to start off the match. And it just feels real, right? Like they aren't trying to manufacture heat or play like they hate each other. That's not what this is about, you know?
Yeah. I personally love the streamers, which we don't get enough in wrestling.
Yes.
Give me the
Fuck's
streamers
sake.
all the time.
They gave Joe the streamers when they went to Japan. And that's like the only time they've done the streamers. I'm like, because they were in Japan. I'm like, apparently they don't do that because Vince thinks that it's disrespectful to let the crowd throw things into the ring.
But that's not what it's about. You know, that is a lack of understanding the point of the streamers. But you know.
Oh, so you said that Vince doesn't understand the wrestling business? Oh wow, I could have told you that 25 years ago.
Oh my God.
If you want more on that, please tune in to WrestleMania 9.
Oh yeah, we're gonna really break down Vince not getting the business that day.
Well, okay. In the defense of Vince, I will say when Ted Turner called Vince McMahon to tell him, Vince, I'm in the wrestling business, Vince told Ted, well, we're not in the same business. He doesn't believe he's in the wrestling business. He's in the entertainment business. And so, in the defense of Vince McMahon, I don't think it's that he doesn't understand. I think it's that that's not what he's going for. But I digress. It is what it is. In the first match, getting back to Joe versus Punk. In their first match, Punk was relying heavily on his ability to outlast Joe and to try and tire him out. But he wasn't able to do it. So this time, he's forced to change up his strategy. And it makes for a really interesting turn of events as the match plays on. So Punk is actually caught in a wrist lock early on, and he's having difficulty powering out. So he decides to twist through and rolls Joe over into a fireman's carry. And it is just a beautiful exchange very early in this match that this match is a constant struggle of lock up. Every hold has a struggle and a thoughtful, believable escape.
Oh yeah, like the entire match is just okay. Punk cannot out grapple Joe because Joe's too strong, has that strength advantage. Punk has the advantage when it comes to the technical wrestling, so he's just trying to outpace Joe, and Joe is just trying to basically ground Punk and out grapple him. So the entire match is a struggle to maintain control. Because, dear Lord, if we try to sit down and list all the reversals, we'll be here for a year. But I love how this thing is a slow build, and it just comes up to a crescendo. And you get this moment where, let's say they're trade like headlocks, hammerlocks, side headlock takedowns, rear chin locks. They just are going after each other any way they can.
At one point, Joe gets in a front head scissors double underhook, and I'm just like, the hell am I looking at right now? Like, I've never seen anything like this.
You're watching wrestling, Landon.
And the clean breaks. There are clean breaks in this match.
Yes, because you get in the corner and you got to break clean. You don't want to get disqualified and lose your belt.
It's just so refreshing to see this.
To see what? Wrestling? I know,
Wrest-
right?
It's actual wrestling.
Yes.
A couple of things I want to point out. One of them is, Landon, a minute ago you said that Punk's strategy changed for the second match. And you can tell early on because Punk goes for a couple of pin attempts, a couple roll-ups or small packages in that first 15 minutes or so. And that's not at all what he was doing in the first match, right? So he is trying to maybe in between the wrestling try to catch Samoa Joe off guard just a hair. But the first half of this match, the first 30 minutes, there's no clear advantage.
No,
for the most part,
it's constant back and forth.
Right. It's just two guys wrestling back and forth, and it's really, really high quality. And I do want to mention, it's not relevant to the match really at all, other than he's actually there. But you know who's in Samoa Joe's corner, kind of,
Jay Lethal.
standing ringside, is Jay Lethal, which I think is fascinating. He doesn't do anything. He just stands there and watches the match, and they don't mention him ever again. But you see him, and he's there, and I think it's very, very interesting.
It's very similar to when we were watching the matches from New Japan, where you had Geto on the outside, or you had Ibushi on the outside. It's like they're not there to interfere; they're just there because, like, okay, my mentor is wrestling. I'm gonna.
Right, and that's what I was trying to convey, that he wasn't really being a manager as much as he was, watching his mentor in the ring.
He's out there to support him, but he's just there to support him. He's not there to cheat. He's not there to distract. He's just there as a, hey, I'm on your side.
Mm-hmm.
I got your back. No matter what happens, I got your back.
And yeah, so Punk's strategy does sort of shift from what he was doing in the first time, and what he decides to do is go back to what works for him. And in this first half of this match, it's the side headlock takedown. So the second or third time he gets Joe down with a side headlock takedown, you see Joe slam the mat in frustration. He's just like, why is this working so well for him? And it's like a moment later, Joe starts to gain momentum, and he doesn't give a clean break this time. And so I love how you see at the beginning, everything is like fair game. We're all going to give clean breaks. And then after he gets frustrated, you see him start to break. And you've got to think that's part of Punk's strategy.
I think so. Get him angry and make mistakes. But I love that because that switch happens, and then Joe just starts to chop the ever-living hell out of Punk. It's like, oh, my God.
Yeah, so he starts laying in the chops, and then Punk is able to create some distance, and boom, back to the side headlock.
Oh, yeah. And then I think one of my favorite moments is Punk gets like another takedown, and Joe keeps trying to break out of it. And then I think one of my favorite moments in this match, Joe is trying to get a hammerlock, and Punk just steps up on the second turnbuckle and just like jumps over his back to get another hammerlock in. And I'm like, oh my God, what are they doing? And then Joe goes for a backdrop. Punk rolls through the backdrop and maintains the fucking hammerlock.
Yes.
And then rolls right back, and then rolls into a front face lock.
Yep.
And I'm like, holy shit.
That exchange was just my jaw was on the floor. And then after this, Joe challenges Punk. He's like, okay, go run the ropes. Try it. And so he's like, okay. Punk runs the ropes, and this is one of the most incredible series of moves I think I've ever seen in the ring. Punk runs the ropes and runs into Joe a few times. Joe doesn't budge. So he pie faces Punk. And the last time, it looks like Punk is going to take off and try again, but instead, he quickly turns and swings close range at Joe. Joe anticipates it, turns around on Punk with a series of face slaps, sends him to the ropes, delivers a hip toss.
Oh, yeah. Tries
to capitalize, but Punk kicks him off, gets up. Samoa Joe rushes in, hits a quick arm drag, which is beautiful. And this is preceded by a series of back and forth reversals, ending in Punk getting a roll up, and it's just a 2 count on Joe. All of this that I just said takes place in about 10 seconds.
Oh, yeah. It's like hip toss, arm drag, snapmares. And I'm like, Jesus Christ.
It was
incredible
to watch.
And then Joe takes a powder.
Yeah.
He blinked first. The champ blinked first.
He steps outside the ring. And you can tell he's frustrated. You already could tell he was frustrated, but you can really tell because a fan in the front row is jawing at him, and he kicks the barricade right in front of him.
Yeah. Ooh, bit of a hostile crowd here in Chicago.
Yeah. If Joe did that to me, I would have sat right down and said, okay, you're right.
I'm sitting down.
Whatever you say.
Please, scary man, don't actually attack me.
Right, Mr. Joe. Whatever you need.
Like, I will sit down and I will be polite and quiet for the remainder of the match.
Exactly. But what a great start. I mean, it's that first 15 minutes of that back and forth wrestling, and it just flies by.
It really does. This match does not feel like an hour long.
Not at all.
No.
And,
no, not even a little bit.
And I love how you continue to see the frustration building up in Joe. You continue to see this internal struggle inside Samoa Joe. Punk is able to get Joe like off of him at one point and does it like a go behind reverse waistlock takedown, which is fun to see. It's like, oh my god, okay, so Punk really has some amateur wrestling here. And from here they trade positions, each getting onto the other's back over and over, ending in Joe mounting Punk's back, and Punk is like trying to cover up the back of his head. Mm-hmm. And Joe rears back that arm like he's gonna smack Punk in the back of the head. And then you just see him put his arm down and let Punk up.
Yeah, it's like, I got you.
Well, but you see the frustration in his face. He's just like, okay, do I really have to resort to this? No, I'm going to beat this guy. I know I can do it. Let's get him back up and wrestle this guy.
What I think is interesting about that is because it kind of descends again into more of a fist fight, and then Joe is clearly the winner there. And then Punk takes a powder.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, now Punk's blinking. But Punk blinked good 5 minutes after Joe did. Even though he's taking the powder, it's like, all right, calm down. You got this. You're making Joe make mistakes, and that's the only way you're going to beat him.
Well, and he's making Joe make mistakes, but he's making Joe want to out-wrestle him, which is such an interesting cerebral strategy. And so Joe says, okay, you want to wrestle? Let's do Greco-Roman knuckle lock.
Oh, God, I love this.
And so he's got the knuckle lock. Punk drops down to his back, tries to wrap his legs around Joe's head for the head scissors, but Joe blocks it. And in this moment, Punk's shoulders are down. So the ref starts counting. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah, the shoulders are down. It's just, I love this because we just get a monkey flip out of nowhere by Punk, but Joe maintains wrist control.
Yep.
And I'm like, where have we seen that before? Oh, that's right. Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston had a similar kind of match. They just did it. Theirs was 20 minutes. This one's 60 minutes. I'm sitting here thinking, gosh, imagine if they gave Kofi and Bryan an hour.
This may have been what we got.
Time.
This may have been a similar match.
I think we've got very, very similar. And then at this point, I noticed that, okay, he's going to maintain wrist control. I'm going to kill Joe's arm. So Punk just starts going after that arm. He starts kicking the arm, stomps him on the ground, arm drags, deep arm drags.
And Punk holds on to the arm of Joe, walks up to the top rope, old school style, and flies in with a leg drop to the arm.
Oh yeah, and here I was thinking that Punk only did that against Undertaker to piss him off. Like, oh, that's right, he did used to do that all the time in Ring of Honor.
What I think is really interesting is, Paul, you mentioned earlier that the Ring of Honor fans are going to watch the match and they're intelligent. They're not going to be bored by this, and that is true. But apparently someone was not happy with what was happening because CM Punk yells while he's got Joe's left arm. He yells at one point, right in this moment, he says, "If you don't like it, the door's over there."
Yeah, I remember that, and I'm like, oh, it must feel so good to be able to just say shit or to clap back at the fans heckling you because you're in a publicly traded company where you can actually get in trouble and just be like, fuck off. If you like my match, leave.
I do love that Jimmy Bauer and Mark Nolte on commentary, they're very well versed in the story of what's happening and the rise to Punk and Joe, so they know what they're talking about. But I think they sum up the first 20 plus minutes of this match probably pretty well, because they say if you're going to describe this match so far, the one word you'd say is focused.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And some of my favorite moments in this match are just like when Punk starts to go after really focusing on that arm. Punk gets in a key lock. Joe tries to break the key lock with a snapmare, but Punk just rolls with him and just maintains the hold.
Oh, I love that.
And I love that too. And I'm thinking, nobody does this kind of stuff anymore. It's like, I have you in this hold. You reverse it. You break it. I'm like, You know what's more interesting? Showing that the technical wrestler who's supposed to know how to block reversals, just roll with them and maintain the hold or switch to another hold. You know, stuff that Kurt Angle did it all the fucking time.
Yeah. And what you see here is the contrast of styles between Punk and Joe, and it's really starting to favor Punk. Joe is leaning in on his power and striking, and he throws a stiff kick, but Punk is able to catch it, forcing Joe down to the mat and return to the side headlock. And so it's like, just like you think of a Kurt Angle used to do this, he's turning every move that Joe throws at him into a side headlock.
Pretty much. And at this point, we are 30 minutes into this match, and now Punk is in firm control.
Yeah, and Punk really has control until Joe tries one desperate measure to get out of that headlock, and he throws both himself and Punk out of the ring.
Oh, that was scary. That was so scary.
Yeah, and so they both land on the outside, but he still holds on. No, he totally hangs on.
It maintains. It's scary.
Yeah. He hangs on until Joe back suplexes him onto the floor.
Oh, God. I'm like, oh, God, they're in a gym, so he just landed on that fucking hardwood floor. I'm like, that's worse than the concrete.
So I've got a question for y'all, and I'm very curious to see if your answer is going to be the same as mine. Samoa Joe does, I would consider, one thing better than anybody else in the business. What is that one thing?
Face wash.
Ooh, I'm glad you mentioned that because I got a question about that. But no, that's not it.
I was gonna say
Snapmares?
Sing Jailhouse Rock.
What?
He's Elvis, isn't he?
Oh my God. I was gonna say striking in the corner, right? So Joe has the best series jab, chop, jab, chop, jab, chop. Who else does that? That Joe owns the corner strike.
I don't know, maybe Loki, but
okay, Loki might have a better corner strike.
Not chopping strikes. His is more of like kicks.
Yeah, but Paul. Okay, so Paul, you brought up the face wash boot. How do you take a face wash boot?
It happens. you turn your face and you're hoping he steal it and catch you on the jaw. That's what I'm serious. You close your eyes and you hope for the best because it hurts. It does not feel good, especially when he does the running one. And we get some face wash here because we're still on the outside. We get a snapmare by Joe, kicks to the chest, stomp to the back of the head, and then a running knee drop to the back of Punk's head. So we get face washes in the corner. But not to be outdone by this, Punk returns the favor, and he does a face wash of his own.
He does.
And then he does a running face wash. I'm like, okay. And before Joe can get back to his feet, we get a top rope knee drop to Joe's back by Punk.
Oh, I love that. It's like, so he had Joe positioned in the corner, but Punk goes to the top rope and just puts his knee on Joe's spine and just falls forward. I've never seen that before.
Oh, it looks like it hurt too. It's a 2 count. I'm like, okay. Like Punk has gotten a lot of near falls on Joe at this point. Then Joe locks in a leg trap reverse chin lock.
Man, it started as an STF, and that is not what it finished as.
Oh.
That is for sure.
And he starts bending Punk in half backwards, and I'm like, how is he not tearing like so many muscles right now?
Yeah, because he's got his knees sprawled over Punk's legs, and it's just brutal.
Oh, because then he rolls back with him, and like his knee is like bending out to the side. His like head is being arched back, so his back is being arched, and his knees are being like bent the way they're not supposed to go. And I'm like, he had to hurt himself. There's no way he didn't get something, at least a Charlie horse right here, because that looks like it fucking hurts.
And at
This
this
is the
point,
first time in the match. Sorry, Landon. This is the first time in the match where it seems like Joe actually has some control.
Yeah.
They were kind of back and forth in that first half an hour. Maybe Punk with the advantage, if you're going to say anyone had an advantage. But this is where Joe starts to kind of take a little bit of control with that. With that reverse chin lock. Punk misses a crossbody, and ultimately.
Well, hang on. He doesn't just miss it. Joe casually just steps out of the way, and that is one of my favorite things that he does. He sees it coming, just steps out of the way casually. And I'm like, why don't more people do that?
It's such a fuck you move.
No, it's like they always see him up there before they jump. Yeah, they do, which means you have enough time to react and just step out of the way. Nobody else does that.
It's good.
Like people will do like the last minute like evasion, but Joe that looks up, springboard, all right, fine, and just steps out of the way casually, as I'm smarter than you. And I'm like, why don't people do that?
And Joe really does take control. I mean, he does a stalling suplex. Keep in mind, they've been going for 30 minutes at this point, and he hits a stalling suplex. And that's impressive on both men's parts, by the way.
I don't know, man. He picks him up, and when he dropped him, like, that was a brain buster.
He does hit a brain buster later. Yeah, he does hit a brain buster later.
Oh, man. And then Punk just won't, he can't go down without a fight, so he just starts chopping the shit out of him. Goes for drop kick, but Joe just sweeps out Punk's legs. And I love when he does that. He does like the front leg sweep.
The Boston Crab.
Oh.
The Boston Crab. Man, I haven't seen a Boston Crab in that deep since like wrestling with siblings.
Oh, it's unreal. Punk sees that he's going for it, and he knows. So
Grabs the legs.
He tries to avoid it, but Joe locks it in, and then he backs up to really cinch it in, which you don't see a lot of.
Well, if you notice, he lowers his arms to get almost down to Punk's knees, and that's when he sits on him. And I'm like, oh. In the back of my mind, I'm like, fuck, man. Boston Crab is one of those moves that if you do it safely, it looks painful but doesn't hurt. That hurts.
Yeah, no, that hurts. Sorry.
He's gone from being like a slight curve to being a full-on C. And your body is not meant to do that. Even if you're double jointed, your body's not meant to bend like that.
So that's what the C stands for in CM Punk then.
Yes.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Oh, he goes to a full-on C here. He bends him almost completely in half. Like his heels are not that far away from the top of his head.
Yeah, and Punk tries to trade uppercuts with Joe after this. That's a mistake.
Not going to happen.
That's a big mistake.
Yeah. Guess who wins that battle?
Yes, the Polynesian wins that battle. We get a very, very hard Irish whip into the corner. And then Joe just starts stomping Punk's head. And then he just starts giving him these hard shots to the face. And I think it's really funny because the first time I watched it, I literally said this right before the commentary says it. Oh, man, Punk's eye is starting to swell up. And then like a moment later, and you could see the right eye of CM Punk is starting to swell up from all these shots by Joe. And I'm like, oh, okay, so they noticed it too.
oh, but he hasn't even taken the best shot yet. So there's a series where these guys are on the outside, and they decide it would be a great idea to trade running knees to the head with their head smashed to the barricade.
Yeah, which I think is like I think that Joe's move is called the Ole Ole kick. Like I think that's what they're called.
It is.
Right? So yeah, but they trade them and it, like just the kick by itself is tough, but when you're sandwiching your opponent's head in between your boot or your knee and the barricade, ow.
Yes. So barricade spot. What do you think, Spencer?
Well, there's actually a couple barricade spots, and they're right around this moment in the match, like 35, 36 minutes, that I really like. But it's also because they're not just throwing each other into the barricade.
Yeah, it's not the same cookie cutter bullshit. Like they're using the barricade as a weapon, not if I drop him in the barricade, it's devastating. No. I'm just going to kick his head into the barricade.
Yeah, he's going to kick his head into the barricade, or he's going to take Punk from the apron and swing him head first into the barricade. For reference, it looks like what Shayna Baszler was doing recently with Becky Lynch in the lead up to WrestleMania.
But that was into the
right.
God.
So it's that same thing, but instead it's into the metal ring barricade.
The only thing covering it is a thin piece of cloth.
Right, not a whole lot, but it is brutal. And as soon as I saw it, I thought, hell, I like that barricade spot. That's pretty good.
And I'm thinking here, all right, man, that's the thing. There's no way that we're like, this is not going to be it.
Right. We're 40 minutes into the match, and I love this moment because they're still on the outside. Punk is sitting in a chair because that's where Joe put him, and it looks like he's gonna try for another ole ole kick. But this woman in the crowd, and this is what I love about smaller wrestling events, is because you can hear what people say. And this woman in the crowd says, "Don't kill him. Let the man catch his breath."
Well, I love this because he goes for the face wash, and Punk's able to block it, and they have another little exchange here, which Joe easily wins.
Yeah.
And then he just hits the face wash off the barricade, and I'm like, oh god. And now we're approaching they literally announce 45 minutes have passed in this match, and just the chants are just getting deafening now.
Well, what's super important to note here is my favorite moment in the history of this list so far. We're 42 and a half minutes in. Joe hits a tope flying forearm to the outside.
Oh, so
and that's
good.
when the commentary team says, "You know what? We're out of here. We're gone. We're leaving.
Yeah.
We want to watch this as fans. Thanks for ordering the pay-per-view. See you guys later." And they are done. They don't talk at all the rest of the match. They go watch it in the crowd or something.
Well,
I can't.
A moment I really enjoyed, Punk goes for his signature corner shining wizard, and then Joe just steps to the side slightly and just gets that Uranagi.
Oh, I love it.
And I'm like, that is like textbook Samoa Joe offense.
But it's also
corner move.
It's also textbook.
blocks.
It's also textbook CM Punk offense. So it's almost like these two guys' styles mesh so well.
And you know what it's going to do. Yeah.
And about the 45-minute mark being the part where the commentators just say, out.
All right, we're out.
But to be fair, this match did not need commentary to tell their story. There wasn't any
No, it really didn't.
Joe stealing Punk's girlfriend or convoluted soap opera backstories to rehash for an hour. There was only wrestling, plain and simple. And so I know it's kind of ridiculous, but I was totally okay with it.
And when Joe does a tope to the outside, he then hits a DDT on the apron. And for the first time since we started doing this show, I didn't feel the need to make the hardest part of the ring analogy because I didn't have somebody going, "Oh, man, that's the hardest part of the ring." I'm like, no fucking shit.
Everybody knows.
Everybody knows. You don't got to say it. So, and since that's right to the commentary.
Well, and there's no commentary to say it.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I'm not even going to make the joke now. I just sees him on the apron. And then I love this because he goes to suplex him back into the ring. And Punk's like, no, you're not going to do that. Drop kick to the knees. Oh, I'm like, you clever bastard, Punk.
and
lands on his feet.
What I love here is that we're getting to beyond the 50-minute mark, and Punk returns to the side headlock. This was clearly his game plan from the very beginning is to find this move that is going to wear down Samoa Joe and frustrate Samoa Joe over and over and over and over again, and he's able to do it.
Oh man, we get some insane fucking exchanges here. So Joe goes for a scoop slam, climbs up for a diving headbutt. Punk rolls out of the way, baits a diving headbutt. Punk hits an enziguri, and then we get what I refer to as arm trap mule kicks, because I don't know what else to call it. And then Joe's like, fuck you, goes for a power slam. He didn't go for it. He hits it like a very, very Randy Orton Goldust-esque power slam. Just quick, up, down, bam. Oh, shit, I missed that because I blinked. And then a moment that brought a tear to my eye. Joe sets up for a power bomb. I'm like, yes, here we go. We didn't have one in the last match. I guess reversed to a hurricanrana by Punk. And I'm like, oh no.
Oh, no.
Power bomb. And then Punk hits the running big boot. I'm like, oh my God. And then he hits a beautiful tornado DDT. Oh, goes for a suplex. Joe blocks it. Joe goes for a suplex. It's reversed. Joe goes for the short arm clothesline. No, because Punk carries that by fireman carry gutbuster. And then Joe hits a fucking brain buster.
Oh,
like,
that brain buster. And he doesn't cover. That's the thing. It's like, and I don't know. It's kind of ridiculous not to cover, because if you guys have been paying attention, this ref has been counting like he's desperate for this match to end.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
It's fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Brainbuster doesn't cover Punk, allowing him to get in an arm trap DDT. And Joe was able to kick out. And you hear the crowd, you hear someone scream from the crowd, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Yeah, like the crowd is like, bullshit, that was 3. I'm like, shut the fuck up, guys. They're still wrestling.
I knew how this match ended before I watched it, and I still thought that arm trap DDT was it. Like, I thought that was
Oh,
it.
yeah. Well, gentlemen, the reason why it wasn't over is because we get a fucking powerbomb by Joe. The streak, baby.
Powerbomb,
Will
Boston
never end.
Crab combo. I love it.
The streak forever.
Well, okay, so it's a powerbomb.
Forever. Forever.
Oh, God. Here he goes. Are you done?
Forever.
Okay. So it's a powerbomb that he rolls over into a Boston Crab. But this time, he doesn't actually sink in the Boston Crab. He turns around and gets a crossface.
Yes.
And it's just brutal.
Oh.
The last 15 minutes of this match are nuts. I mean,
Frantic.
they're just nuts. And you can tell, like once Joe puts that crossface on, we're sitting at about the 53-minute mark. So you can tell that the time limit is coming close, right?
Yes.
And so these guys are trying to do what they can to maybe steal the win at the very end. And that's why we get these bigger moves. We get this power bomb from Joe. Once the crossface is finally broken up, Punk hits a Shining Wizard.
Oh, so beautiful.
And it's great. And you think that might be it. But Joe, again, gets the rope break. And the rope play a big part in this match.
Oh, yeah. Punk hits a moonsault, but again, Joe, he kicks out. I'm like, fuck's sake, man.
So did you notice when Punk was in... So Joe gets Punk into a full Nelson. And Punk's escape of that full Nelson is unlike anything I've ever seen. And so this was during a series of really quick snap on a move, reverse, snap on a move, reverse. And so he gets the full Nelson, and then Punk just slams his foot down. And so that forces his body weight and his arms down. And so it forces the break. I've never seen someone get out of a full Nelson like that.
So what you're saying is the Master Lock Challenge is very easy. Just kind of like stomp the foot down.
That's whatever works.
Honestly, the best way to break a full Nelson? Just go limp.
Slide right down.
They cannot hold you in place and maintain that hold. They're either holding you up or holding the holds. You can't do both. Just go limp. Just have your entire body go limp. They cannot hold you up and maintain that control. You'll slide right out of their arms.
All right, next time someone offers a Master Lock Challenge, it's free money right here.
Yeah,
we get 10%.
Is that going to be? Is that going to be the losing thing next time somebody loses trivia? Master Lock Challenge.
Ooh,
yeah, Master Lock
that.
Challenge.
I'll
put you in the Master Lock. You try to go limp, I'll just hit you with the Bubba Bomb and shoot your spine right on the top of your head. But gentlemen,
so good.
We get a beautiful chop punch combo by Joe, followed by a very scary pump handle slam. Like,
oh my god! I called it a pump handle. What?
He picks him up for the pump handle, and I thought he was going to do the drop, but he kind of like spins him around, just throws him down. I'm like, Jesus Christ. What are you trying to do? Oh, yeah, I think you are trying to kill him. But Joe goes for the short arm clothesline, reverts into a sleeper hold. And I'm like, oh my God, here we go. This is it. He's got him. Joe rolls out of that, hits an exploder suplex.
Yes.
Like, okay, here we go.
Plants Punk on his neck.
Oh, God. And then we get a fucking double down. I'm like, oh, no, come on. Oh, you can't do this to me.
I will say...
No, especially because there's only like 2 minutes left to go in the match.
Ooh, I know.
I will say that, this match is extremely intense to this point, but we get a moment of levity when Punk starts karate chopping from the top rope. He's like, it popped me a little. I was like, oh my God, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, I love this because he's going for the Pepsi plunge, and the crowd is literally counting down how much time is left. I'm like, fuck, Pepsi plunge, no, superplex, 3, 2, oh, ding, bell rings. Like, oh, fuck. Oh, ooh, it ended. I'm like, no, that can't be the end. Crowd starts chanting 5 more minutes, and I'm like, yes, please, 5. I need 5 more minutes. We have to have a winner. no, the decision is final.
And there is a chorus of 5 more minute chants, and it's like,
Yeah.
ugh. So
They make the announcement. Punk hands Joe the belt, and then they shake hands.
yeah,
And normally, if you'd have told me this is going to be a time limit draw beforehand, I'm like, fuck you, I'm not watching 60 minutes with that. When we got that time limit draw, I was like, I don't know how you could have possibly ended that match otherwise. Like, you had to do this.
Spencer.
You know, Landon, for a minute there, I was reminded of 1990s ECW triple threat matches.
Oh my God! What was it? The night the line was crossed, where all 3 of us wanted that hour of our lives back.
Yeah. I felt that way for just a moment, but I felt much more satisfied with this draw. I still don't love a draw, but hell, this match.
So this is the thing. This is the thing, Spencer. And I had prepared a statement for.
You knew how I was gonna.
Yes,
statement.
I prepared a statement because I knew Spencer hates draws. He hates time limit draws, particularly 1 hour time limit draws. So I actually just finished a book series, and this is true. And in the interest of avoiding spoilers, this book series will remain nameless. But essentially, the main character spends 7 books searching for something. And when he finally finds it, the book ends immediately. And
the fuck?
It's not always about the ending, but the journey you took to get there.
It's a journey, not the destination. That's
And of all the time limit draws you'll see, this will hands down be the absolute best.
Well, I gotta say,
win, lose, or draw, these men had the respect of that crowd, and they have my respect.
well, there's only 2 matches that went to a time limit draw where I didn't call bullshit, and one of them is because they immediately got 5 more minutes and we had a winner. Is this and then the Iron Man match? But the Iron Man match got overtime, and then Sean won, as we all know. But this is definitely the first time where I watched time limit draw, and I wasn't like, "Fuck that, that's bullshit." I was like, "No, that was what it needed to be."
Clearly the crowd agrees, right? The thank you Punk after the match just melts my heart.
Yeah,
Yep.
You know what I think is really interesting is this is their second straight hour time limit draw.
Yeah.
You know, at World Title Classic, 4 months before, it was also 60-minute time limit draw. So back-to-back matches, they do the same thing. Obviously, to draw here, but they face for a third time, the final time in the trilogy at Ring of Honor All-Star Extravaganza 2, just 2 months later in December, and Joe would win that match to retain his championship before ultimately losing it later that month, after being champion at that point for 645 days. You know who he lost the belt to?
Austin Aries.
Yeah,
Who was another one of my personal favorites.
Who Punk would eventually poetically defeat Austin Aries for the belt. So
right.
So the man that beat Joe, the man that Punk could not beat, he was able to then capture the championship off. And then, of course, that's when there's the signing with WWE, and Punk famously turns heel and signs the WWE contract on the ROH belt.
Oh, you know what I love so much about that is he had his farewell match, and then he fucking won and turned heel. He's like, everybody knows he's signing, he's leaving, and then he fucking wins the match.
I love it.
And then cuts this amazing, like, you don't always get what you want. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going somewhere, and I'm going to make better money where there's better. He just cuts this he just completely eviscerates the entire crowd.
It's why I love the wrestling business.
They were all right behind him 100% because they knew he was going to lose and he was going to leave, and then he won the fucking belt.
I love it.
And then you're right. And then he has the thing where he signs his contract on the Ring of Honor title. Oh my God. And then of course he actually does do the right thing. He drops the belt before he goes to ECW. But just there was that moment where I was like, fuck's sake, he tricked everybody. And this is covered extremely well in the CM Punk Best in the World, one of the only real WWF documentaries that I actually own, because it was really good because he had full creative control on it. That's why it was so good. Uh, it's covered very well in there. I highly recommend you watch it. It's on the network. It was on Netflix for a while too.
Yeah.
I'll watch it. It's good. It's really funny to watch it now in the cold light of 2020.
Right.
It came out in like 2012, like right at the peak of like, punk, summer of punk. And I'm like, it's interesting because they released it at the peak of his WWE, I almost said his WWE career. And now here we are almost a decade later, and he's an analyst for Fox. So yeah, it's crazy. Oh man.
Favorite moments?
Geez, I pretty much mentioned them already.
Yeah, it's there's a lot to cover with favorite moments here, but I still have to say the series after the pie face, right? The exchange after the pie face. It's just the first half of the match just sets up that these guys are evenly matched and that we're in for a classic. And I think that's my favorite moment.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I've already said it, but Joe sidestepping the crossbody, just perfect. The power bomb into the C crab, the complete like backwards C Boston crab. Just like Punk just refusing to break holds when Joe reverses them, and vice versa. Like both of them, just the fucking reckless abandonment that they both wrestled in this entire match. It's fucking awesome. It's a breath of fresh air. Because I just feel like nobody wrestles like that anymore.
This is the definition of a wrestling match, and it's really, really good. I really like the last 15 minutes because I like the desperation that comes out of trying to beat not only your opponent but also beat the clock, and I think that's a really interesting story to tell, especially when they're trying to just find out who's the better man. So they kind of pull out all the stops in that last 10 minutes or so, and it's really, really fun to watch.
Oh, exactly. It's like they almost had like 3 different matches in the span of this 60 minutes.
Hey, that's a really good point. Yeah, you could definitely think of it that way. Kind of that first 20, 30 minutes could be its own match. The next 15 or so, and then that last act.
That last act is like it became like a championship scramble match. It's like we have to, or actually, I'm sorry, the beat the clock challenge. I forget that is a thing. So yeah, it becomes the beat the clock challenge, which is an actual match type.
Yeah, I like a good beat the clock challenge.
It's crazy. It's like if you don't beat him in this a lot of time, then you do not advance in the championship tournament. Oh man.
Who wants to try to rank this thing?
I would love to go first because I feel like everyone's going to beat me down. But so here's the thing. I absolutely loved this match. I watched this match with a gaping mouth the entire time. I can't get over it. I'm still thinking about it. I would watch it again and again and again, even though it's an hour. We already have another match that is an hour long and on the list. And there were actually a few hour-long matches on the list. And I hate to immediately compare this to number 1, but that's what I'm going to do. I am tempted to say I want to put this at number 1. I love the match that much. But if I'm looking realistically at what it reminds me the most of, it's actually Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat, and that's currently at number 4.
It does remind me a lot of that match as well. I got a lot of allusions to that one.
So if we're looking at around the number 4 spot, there's Flair Steamboat and then Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Kazuchika Okada at number 5. And I would be comfortable slipping this in at number 5, right under Flair and Steamboat.
Oh man.
And that's where my heart is right now.
Yeah. Paul, do you mind if I go next?
Not at all. Go ahead.
I feel like you're going to be the middleman, so I'm going to go next because and I could be wrong about that. This is just my general thought. I like this match. I think it's very good. I am not as in love with it as you are, Landon. And it's not even really because it's a draw. Like that really doesn't take a whole lot away from it for me. Would I prefer a winner? Sure, but after the 60 minutes that they go at each other, in a match where there was never a clear really advantage the whole time. It's not like Joe dominated the match and Punk survived the whole hour, and it's not like Punk, just couldn't get it done. It was an even match the whole time, so a draw makes sense for that reason, I think. And so I don't mind that at all. If I'm gonna rank it, what I had kind of decided before this was to put it at number 12.
Number 12?
Underneath the Styles, Joe, and Daniels triple threat.
Wow,
and
so
above
you are
Cena, Shawn
saying this
Michaels.
is breaking the Cena-Michaels threshold that we knew was going to be a barrier match.
Yeah, I am.
That's impressive.
I feel comfortable with that because I like the first 30 minutes. It's kind of similar to Cena and Michaels. In that not only is it long, but it's a pretty good wrestling match. Cena and Michaels, I mean, albeit not Punk and Joe in terms of wrestling ability. Speaking, I guess Cena specifically at this time.
I'm gonna say one of them.
Yeah, but Cena and Michaels tried out wrestle each other for a lot of that match, especially the first part. So I think they're easy to compare in that way, and I think this one is better than that one, this Punk and Joe match, just because of how even the match is the whole time and the way they're able to build past their really incredible chain wrestling up until trying to beat the clock at the end. So I really like this match. That's where I would put it, is 12. I'm really curious where you're at, Paul.
Well, here's my conundrum now: is both of you have given me such exceptional arguments that I can't really fault either of them. It's like,
okay. If you were gonna be the first one, if you were gonna just shoot your shot and not worry about what we said, where would you put it on your list?
I don't know. I think it's funny that Spencer said I'm gonna be kind of the middle guy, because I'm like, yeah, because it's weird. I feel like Spencer put a little too low, but Lana felt like he put a little too high. So it's such a hard decision to make. When I really break down because you guys have put it in that point between 5 and 12.
Right. So I guess the first question you ask is, does it make your top 10?
Well, when I look at those 7 matches, yes, I think it does. My conundrum is, do I put it in the top 5 at this point? Because when I look at from 5 to 10, I'm like, I do like it, or not necessarily that I like it. I do feel like it gave us more than some of these matches did. My conundrum kind of comes in where, okay, do I go top 5 or do I kind of stick in more top 10 areas? And that's a really hard decision to make. Staring at the list right now, gosh, it's really hard to argue with either of you right now. I think I would actually put this right behind Tanahashi and Okada.
So at 6.
Yes, I put it at 6.
Why is that?
That's as much as I love this match, as good as it is, I feel like not having a clear-cut winner does hurt it a little bit, in my opinion.
And so you think this match deserves to be above the Brett and Owen WrestleMania 10 opener?
Yes.
Because I'm not going to lie, I also need help convincing myself of that too. It's just, there are things that this match does, and knowing that this match was it was in front of 300 people?
I don't have an exact number, but it was a small crowd.
And just knowing that this, I don't know. This is one of the most difficult rankings we've had to do yet because of how
it's a hard ranking.
Because of how different the circumstances are surrounding this match.
So I'll say a couple of things. One of them is that it was their second time limit draw in a row.
Yeah.
Which takes away a little bit for me as well. Like, had it been their first, maybe I feel differently. I understand how that adds to the story and how it makes the third match even bigger, but it makes it also not new that this happened, right? So
True.
It's not as surprising. The other thing I would say is rewatchability. And I know, Landon, you said you would rewatch this over and over again.
Oh yeah, I found it very rewatchable.
Yeah, and I think it is very rewatchable. But there are matches in the top 10 that I would watch again before I'd watch this one again. Like Akira, Hokuto, and Kandori. I would watch that one again. I would watch Guerrero and Mysterio probably.
You know what? I'm so glad that you brought up Hokuto and Kandori, because for some reason my brain keeps going back to that match when I think about this, and you know what? That's the reason why it currently sits at number 10.
Mhm.
It is the new guardian of the top 10. So, Spencer, for you, could this at all move over that match? Or would you argue that there's no way that this would make it to the top 10, having Kandori and Hokuto as the keepers of the 10?
If this was my list, like if this was Spencer's 100 greatest list of all time, and I was on episode 39, this probably doesn't cross the top 10. And it would keep Akira and Shinobu at that number 10 spot. That's just me, though. And so there's 3 of us. So there's obviously some wiggle room there. Because you guys ranked it, I mean, substantially higher than that match. We're close to the top 5. So, like, I don't know. How do you guys feel in terms with that match in comparison?
With Hokuto?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that match. This match, gosh, now you got me wanting to go back on what I said already.
I know it's very difficult. There are a lot of different arguments to make, so I think we need to try and streamline our thought process and say, okay, keep it all front and center in your mind. Rewatchability, the wrestling ability, the story that's going on behind it, and the stage in which it's presented. Those are the things that we have built this list upon. So if you consider all of those,
checks. I don't know. I feel like it checks damn near every box we set out for is the problem. Well, my first watch, I was like, "What the fuck was that ending?" And then I watched it again. I was like, "Oh no, that was what it needed to be." It's long, but it's rewatchable. It's entertaining. It is hard fought. It is not without its faults. I mean, don't get me wrong. No match is perfect. There's some slip ups and some mistakes, but it's not like that doesn't define it. I felt like they wrestled with so much passion and conviction that even if some things were a little sloppy, you kind of forgive it because they've been wrestling for 60 minutes. It's just such a God, I feel like I'm buying time.
How would you guys feel just as an initial bump up, like putting it at number 10? Bumping Hokuto and Kandori down to number 11 and putting it right there and making Joe Punk to the threshold for 10, or is that not high enough?
I think I could sleep at night.
I could too. Yeah.
And you know what? I think this is going to be a lot easier when we get the opinions of all of the listeners at the end of the season, because we've got one match to go, and then we're going to do our season wrap-up episode where we're going to have input from everybody, and we're going to see what everyone's list looks like whenever we put all the votes together. So I say let's put it at number 10 because we all are comfortable with it there. But after we review everyone's lists, we'll have a conversation around what needs to be moved, and I think this is going to be one of those that we look at.
Yeah, I got a feeling that when we finish season 2, we only had like one match move last time. I think we're going to see a couple matches move.
It could be, yeah. Who's to say? We might move nothing. Maybe we got the nail on the head. Everyone is in agreement. We'll see. We'll see.
So we'll say number 10 for now.
Yeah.
And see what happens in the next week or two. Okay, so there you go. Joe Punk 2 falls to number 10 on our list. That's where it'll stand for now. But as Landon mentioned, we have just one match to go, and then we will do our season 2 finale. So what we'll be looking for from you guys out there is we're going to basically put together a survey, right, where you will be able to rank the list yourself. We'll have all 40 matches on there. That'll be very similar if you were with us for the end of season 1. Same kind of deal, where you will rank it all yourself, and then we will break all of those results down on our season 2 finale, and that's going to be a whole lot of fun. But before we get to our season 2 finale, we have to have our last match of season 2, and who would like to say what that's going to be?
Oh my God. Okay. So we always want to end and begin seasons with a bang, right? We started season 2 with Okada Omega. And to close out season 2, we've been getting a lot of requests for Rock matches. Like, why hasn't The Rock been on Last Match Standing yet? What the fuck is your problem?
It's his birthday today.
It's The Rock's
As we are
birthday
recording.
today.
It's his birthday. Yeah.
Oh my God! Happy birthday, Rock! And it's actually, you know what? I think there's a pretty special day coming up for Mr. Paul as well.
Yes, tomorrow is my 30th birthday.
Yeah.
Hey-o!
So all you people listening on Patreon, if you're listening to this on Sunday, then hop on over and wish Paul a happy birthday.
Yeah, and if you're listening on Monday, go tweet at him a happy belated birthday. He'll appreciate it just as much, I'm sure.
I will.
But to back to the point, so the last match, episode number 40, the season 2 final match of season 2 will be The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin from WrestleMania 17.
Can you believe that is going to be our first Rock match? And isn't that our first Stone Cold match?
Nope.
No, it's his
No,
third.
but we had the Canadian Stampede he was in, huh?
Well,
and then
what's our first match? What's match number 1? The first episode we did. Brett
I'm looking
Austin.
at it right here.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it right here.
Why
Why is that my thing? I just assume it's everybody's first time all the time. Why is that my thing?
Well, this was Mike Chioda's first appearance on the podcast this episode, right?
Son of a bitch.
It'll be our third match with Steve, if I'm not mistaken.
It will.
And next week,
I must not even pay attention.
Next week, for the very first time, Spencer Hunt is going to be joining us on the podcast.
Yeah, how about that? He's looking forward to it, I can tell you. Goodness gracious.
Oh, man.
Rock Austin, are you excited about that, Paul?
Yes, I am. WrestleMania 17 was the very first one that I watched live on pay-per-view with some friends of mine. And, my parents made me go home before the main event.
Oh, no.
And you never forgave them.
I didn't. The last match I got to watch was Undertaker and Triple H, which, as you all know, whenever WrestleMania 27 rolled around, the WrestleMania 17 match never happened. So I got to watch a match that never happened, and then I got to miss the main event. And I was so heartbroken the next day when none of my friends wanted to talk about it.
Damn.
Oh.
Well, it'll be fun talking about it with 2 of your closest friends next week.
Yes, it will.
I cannot wait. A quick thank you again to our new patrons, our Slammy Award winners. Thank you so much for joining the ride. Again, we really appreciate that. And to everyone else listening as well, we could not be more thankful. Only one more match to go in season 2.
Unbelievable.
Until then, I'm Spencer.
I'm Paul.
I'm Landon.
And this
is
Last Match Standing.